Alright, so in this video we are going to learn how to recognize graphs of linear functions, and in order to do so, the first step we need to do is place our functions, our linear functions, into point-slope form, which is here, which is our y equals mx plus c. Now the easiest way to find your linear function on a graph is to find the y-intercept, which is where the function crosses the y-axis, and to find your slope, which allows you to see if the function is increasing from left to right or decreasing from left to right. All right, so here in this example, we have two linear functions, and we are going to find them on our graph. All right, so in our first equation, we have 5x minus 4 equals 1. Now, in order to find our y-intercept and our slope, we want to place it into point-slope form, and therefore we need to isolate our y. And in this case, because we don't have a y, we will not have a y-intercept. And so instead of isolating the y, we are going to isolate the x. So we are going to first add 4 on both sides, and we are left with 5x equals 5. And in order to completely isolate the x, we are going to divide 5 on both sides, and we have x equals 1. Now, because we don't have a y-intercept, we only have x equals 1. And so that means that for every y value, x will always equal 1. And that is showcased here in graph A. So for every y value, x will always equal 1. And also in answer D over here, for all y values, x equals 1. And therefore, we can cancel out answers C and B, which have the opposite x value. They have x at -1. All right, so now that we know our first linear function, how it appears on the graph, let's move on to our next linear function, which is 6x minus 5y equals 1. Now, in order to place our linear function into point-slope form, we need to isolate our y. So we are going to subtract 6x on both sides, and we have negative 5y on the left-hand side equals -6 plus 1. All right, now to completely place our function into point-slope form, we want to isolate our y completely, and that means that we are going to divide by -5 on both sides. So we have y equals -6 divided by -5 gives us 6 divided by 5x minus -1 divided by 5, which is -1/5. All right, so now according to our point-slope form, our slope is going to be, our m is going to be 6 divided by 5, and our y-intercept is going to be -1/5. So we have -1/5 here. Oh, all right, so now if we take a look at our two options for our graph, we have either option A or option D. So let's first take a look at our y-intercept. Our y-intercept crosses at -1/5, so that is right below the 0. And that seems to be correct for both graphs. We are right below the 0 for our y-intercept. And our slope seems to be increasing. We have a positive slope of 6/5, which can also be translated into 1 1/5. All right, so if we take a look at our graph, in option A, we have an increasing slope, and in option D, we have a decreasing slope going from left to right. And therefore, A will represent our graph best because we have an increasing slope in A and a decreasing slope in D, and our function represents a positive slope. And therefore, A will be our final answer, and that is your way to recognize linear functions on a graph. To first place your linear functions into point-slope form, isolate the y, and then you can find your slope, your m, and your y-intercept. And it is quite simple to find your slope and y-intercepts on the graph.